Welcome to The Explainer. Think of us as your digital meteorologists for today, and we're bringing you the cybersecurity weather report for the end of January 2026. Yeah, forget about high-pressure systems and cold fronts. We are talking about full-blown ransomware storms and state-sponsored digital hurricanes. So let's check the satellite and see where those storm clouds are gathering.
So, what does the digital battlefield actually look like as we're wrapping up the first month of the year? Where are the storms brewing and who's really most at risk? That's the big question we're going to tackle today. And to get our forecast, we are turning to a really authoritative source, the Byer-Nichols threat brief. Just think of this as our satellite imagery, our ground-level sensors. It's the whole shebang, giving us a complete picture of these developing cyberstorms.
All right, first up, let's take a look at the overall threatscape. This is our high-level forecast, kind of showing the major storm systems that are developing all across the digital globe.
The report is flagging 4 really dominant weather patterns right now. First, you've got ransomware groups applying some intense pressure, just turning up the heat on their victims. We're also seeing this widespread exploitation of common business software, the tools that so many companies totally rely on every single day. On top of that, state-sponsored actors are getting way stealthier, focusing on long-term infiltration and stealing credentials. And finally, there's a much darker trend that's growing. Attacks that are designed not just to steal, but to completely destroy. Now, let's zoom in on the biggest, loudest storm system on our map, the ransomware economy. And listen, this isn't just random chaos. It's a highly organized and very profitable business.
And what's really fascinating here is the shakeup at the very top. A group called Cleo has just surged to #1, and they did this with a massive supply chain attack. Basically, they found a weakness in one piece of software that was used by thousands of companies, and then boom, they hit them all at once. But while Cleo is leading the pack, just look at how big that other category is. It just goes to show you how fractured and diverse this whole ransomware landscape really is.
So, where are these storms making landfall? Well, the data shows they're just pummeling the tech, manufacturing, and construction industries. And these are not random targets, right? They're the foundational pillars of our economy, where every single second of downtime costs an absolute fortune.
Okay, this next point, it honestly surprised me, and it completely busts a common myth. We see all these headlines about huge corporations getting hit, but the data is crystal clear. A staggering 84% of ransomware victims are small businesses. They are not just collateral damage. They are the primary target, often because they just don't have the same resources for defense. And these groups are getting so much smarter, always evolving their tactics. They're moving away from these broad, noisy attacks, and instead they're using faster, more surgical campaigns. They get in, they encrypt the data, and they demand payment on a much, much tighter timeline, which just puts immense pressure on their victims.
Okay, so we've seen the storms, but what are the atmospheric conditions that even allow them to form? It's time to open up the hacker's toolkit and see the specific vulnerabilities and malware that they're using to break in.
This table basically shows you all the open doors and unlocked windows that attackers are just climbing right through. And look, these aren't obscure programs. They're super widely used business tools like VMware, Zimbra, and Fortinet products. The report really highlights that these internet-facing systems, basically any software that connects directly to the outside world, are the primary unlocked doors for intruders.
Now let's look at a particularly nasty tool. This is DynoWiper. And it's not about money, it is purely about destruction. It was recently used in a failed attack on Poland's energy sector. Its only purpose is to wipe systems totally clean, making them completely unusable with absolutely no hope for recovery. And check this out. Here's a tool that bridges the digital and the physical worlds. It's called Plautus, and it's malware designed specifically for ATMs. Attackers use it in what they call jackpotting schemes to literally force a machine to just spit out all of its cash. It's wild. U.S. authorities recently linked it to a gang that stole millions this way. So far, we've talked mostly about financially motivated criminals. But now we're moving into the Category 5 hurricanes of the digital world, the elite, state-sponsored threat actors. This is pretty much the current most wanted list. And these are the state-sponsored groups, which means they are often backed by governments. They aren't just looking for a payday. No, their goals are things like espionage, data theft, and politically motivated disruption. And they use these incredibly stealthy, sophisticated methods to infiltrate targets for the long haul. And among all these elite groups, the Byer-Nichols brief singles out one as the most dangerous of all. The language the report uses here is just chillingly direct. It says Sandworm stands out as the most dangerous.
its attacks pose serious risks to national stability. We're talking about a direct threat not just to a company, but to an entire country's infrastructure.
Okay, we've seen the storms, we've seen the tools, and we've seen the major players. So let's bring it all together. What's the final forecast, and what does this all really mean for you?
So here are the key takeaways from all this. First, your security is only as strong as your partner's security. The CLOP campaign is proof that supply chains are a massive, massive target. Second, small businesses are not flying under the radar, they are the main event. Third, the front door to most networks is that internet-facing software, which makes patching absolutely critical. And finally, the motive is shifting. We're now seeing pure destruction as a primary goal for some of the most dangerous actors out there.
All of this paints a picture of a threat landscape that is just accelerating. The attacks are faster, the tactics are more surgical, and the motives, well, they're getting darker. And it leaves us with this one critical question. As these threats get more and more automated, maybe even AI-driven, how in the world can our defenses possibly evolve to stay one step ahead?